you maintain that you take the, kind of take the wind out of the sail. You control the narrative. So he then called President Buhari. He went in, spoke to him, came out, and I said, should I tweet this to the world? That we're already saying we should not accept. This is what should be done. That should be done. But after he made that call, which was very brave of him and bold of him at that time, and the decision was purely his. He told me from the first night, I will accept the result. What has happened, and I will move on. So I think it was a high watermark in Nigeria's electoral process that the election was deemed credible enough for both the president to accept, the president who lost, and more importantly, the number of court cases in that election declined dramatically. Of course, subsequent years we had issues with the elections, but that was the beginning of the process we're enjoying now.
You said something very significant about, how he already made up his mind to accept the results, and how the process itself was credible enough for both parties to accept the results. How critical, in your opinion, do you think that the process needs to be for parties to be able to respect whatever it is they sign here today?
It's an important part of that process. The process has to be credible. If we take all had the results faster than INEC collation. So the mystery, the darkness around the election collation period has been partly removed by technology. But more important is a significant decision INEC took in this election. I think they took it in Ekiti and then they deepened it here. That decision to enter the result that was on the EC8A into the BVAS. Now, you don't just snap the EC8A, you actually enter it in the e-collation of the BVAS. And that e-collation will not allow you to enter more results than accredited, because the BVAS is the custodian of the accredited. So it doesn't allow you to enter more results. That has significantly improved the process at the polling unit. What is remaining, and I believe that signing this accord today should also go out with that message. What is remaining is that INEC must commit to upload the result in the EC8B. That is the word collation. The word collation is the only point where the collation officer has the power to determine which election from the polling unit goes into the result or is removed. Because he needs to check the EC8A against the BVAS accreditation. He needs to check against the E40G in case of violence or there was no election. That is the moment the collation officer makes that call. So the peace committee should ask INEC as part of that process. And I know they are not into that process, but it should be a message sent out. INEC has made tremendous progress. The technology is working. We have all accepted that the technology is working. What we now need is visibility to what happens at the collation center. Once INEC can upload that result, that closes the current loop, where people are still rushing to collation centers to alter results. So we need to have that. And INEC also needs to be accountable. In the Osun election, from 8:48 p.m. till about 11:35, results stopped coming. 471 results got stalled. INEC should explain what happened in that 2 hours because the expectation is that the IRL should all be done before collation.
Because the truth of the matter is that manipulation, from the Latin word manus, that is hand. Anything that you are holding with your hand is subject to, and once all of this goes to science and technology, even the criminal becomes hopeless. So, for example, if you're driving and you see a traffic light, and the reason why the traffic light stop and you can be penalized is there's nothing you can do about it. So, for me, the more technology is injected into all of this, the less the capacity for those who want to do evil to do so. And I think we must also agree that we've made measurable progress in terms of, for the first years, people's obsession was with stealing ballot boxes. Now it doesn't matter whether you hire giants as your agent. They don't have. That's not going to be the problem. So along with that will come the flip side, which is ordinary Nigerians need to see a qualitative and a measurable improvement in the quality of their lives. That we are not just handing you our votes and then we take the votes and run with them. So, and I keep telling our politicians, politics is a noble game. You can create a bit of nobility around this, but we didn't vote for you to be happy on our behalf. So I think people's confidence will increase as long as they can see a mirror image of the fact that their lives are changing. And I think the very fact that we're having all these elections 20 something, 27 years later, we're still here, is a clear testimony that ordinary Nigerians love democracy. The challenge for the ruling class is to reward them. And you reward them by doing good and making them trust the system.
It's interesting that we have the Inspector General of Police going to be part of the dignitaries expected here today, as well as Supreme Court Supreme Court now, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, she's also going to be here as well. What extraction are you hoping to have from these dignitaries who are also a part? They're not politicians, but they also, form a part of the bastion of people whom you expect will be able to hold these leaders to account. From what we understand, it's not just a presidential signing. Governorship candidates are also here today. National Assembly members are also here today. What are your expectations of these institutions, the heads of these institutions that you have invited?
You see, the first thing is that I think if you go back to the President Jonathan issue, it is that in the final analysis is the quality of individuals you are dealing with, their sense of what is right and what is wrong. Ordinarily, you measure the progress of democracy by how few the steps are to the judiciary. Because ordinary Nigerians cannot be voting, there is a judiciary that takes the final decision. But the courts are there, they are not compelling people to come. But I think that we can measure our progress by the disposition of Nigerians, their willingness to accept that, look, as Jonathan said, if it goes this way, I'm going to accept the results. Now, this is the first accord. The second accord, which comes at the end, is to say we are ready to accept the results of these elections if they are free, fair, and credible. And I think it's also important that Nigerians do not become oblivious because we're not just spectators here, we're witnesses. And so if people, you're not going to stop people from going to court, but we can actually also begin to gather enough momentum to say, look, this is what you promised. Okay, and because then the courts will also learn how to punish those who go with frivolous cases, I mean, seeking what they consider to be validation from the courts.
How easy is it? Because this first signing is to hold the candidates and their political parties to account to issue-based campaigns. That is what you're trying to commit them to. How easy do you think that is going to be ahead of the 2027 elections, especially when you also consider the influence and the impact of social media?
I think that's salvable progress in terms of looking at the turnout in Osun. Let's use that as another example. Um, Over a million people came out to vote out of 2.3 million registered voters. Before the election, the registered voters grew by about 19%. And if you look at over 2022, and if you look at the number of votes, people who came out to vote, it grew again about 20% over the last time. So, you buy 5,000 naira or even 2,000 naira for 50 million people? It becomes just impossible. So, I think that signing this accord together with a credible election, the prospect of a credible election, it will move people to issues in this election, trying to convince people about why they have to vote for them.
It's interesting. Interesting that Oshun continues to come up as an example, of well, of what should be in terms of election day practices. But pre the election, we recorded one or two instances where the rhetoric was very disappointing, and this came from elected officials, people who are non-government officials. Till date, we haven't quite seen sufficient action on that particular rhetoric, at least as much as Nigerian people would like. What would you have loved to see in such an instance?
Well, look, I think I want to commend, first of all, congratulate Governor Adeleke. But he he impressed me by his doggedness, but also his ability to shout and to cry. If my phone were here, if I show you a number of telephone calls and my communication with him from the signing of that peace up, he remained doggedly engaged. The chairman had already traveled, but he kept right up to Friday night. Governor Adeleke was still raising the issues that were on the ground. True or false? Luckily for me, I had access to the Inspector General of Police, and this is where those things are very important. There was a triangular conversation going on. He would complain to me, I'll pass the complaint over to the IG. And in fairness to the IG, he acted on some of those issues. So I think what is most critical is ordinary citizens must also learn to assert their rights. And I think even the people with dubious intentions, even an armed robber can tell where it's going to be dangerous for him to rob. So I think that we learn from Oshun the fact that no matter how much you try, people's will always triumph. I mean, the three times that we were in Oshun, I picked up the vibes and I sensed that the man himself was popular as far as ordinary people on the ground were concerned. And we saw a bit of that back to back, in the last three elections.
Let's talk about losing, because it's one thing to win. I mean, you witnessed the candidate who lost, the man in power who lost. That certainly was not easy. Is there anything in what the candidates are signing today that prescribes what they must do in the event that they lose?
Well, first of all, it depends on how you lose, you know. But also, in the final analysis, it really depends on the quality and the caliber of person you're dealing with. I think Jonathan had an advantage, and maybe I'm wrong, but Jonathan had the advantage of being, let me say, not an Abuja boy. He also had the advantage of being from a minority background. So he did, because if Jonathan were, let's say, let me use the word, a Yoruba man, an Igbo man, or a Hausa man, the reaction, the crowd of people that would have expected that this is our turn, you can't let us down, would have, the pressure would have been quite monumental on him. Had he stayed in Abuja long enough, and then let me put it that way, and affected so many a broad spectrum of people, as you saw, for example, with the case of Yaradua, that even at the last minute, nobody knew whether the man was dead or alive. There was still this desperation with making sure that nothing happened. So very often, if you do not have enough baggage behind you, you can take certain moral decisions. But if it comes to a point in which people expect that you are our representative, we can't let you go. That's when it becomes very difficult. But in the final analysis, the quality of your character and your personal commitment, because in the final analysis, nobody is going to hold you, to do what you don't want to do. So, and this is where, like I said, I don't know how else to put it, to encourage our politicians that politics is a noble game. You cannot force yourself to serve people who have said no, they don't want you to serve. And the courts are there. Again, as I said, there are other mechanisms for resolving some of these conflicts. But citizens with people seem convinced that there's no need going to the courts because terrible things have happened in the courts. But we must also come back to the fact that there's no alternative to the judicial process. So whereas we criticize the courts, and rightly so, but we must also encourage our people, that there's the only thing outside the court is jungle justice. So, but what I aspire for, what I wish for, is a situation in which there will be
in Nigeria, shamelessness has become a political asset.
And let
So
our
people
processes
who are
be resolved. And I
shameless
think this is where other
go around
alternative
doing
mechanisms for
whatever
resolving
they think they need to do to
become
seize and
important.
hold on to power.
Okay, let me
And we
quickly ask
kind
you,
of indulge them, tell them.
if you
So
also agree.
when we come to this type of environment to sign this agreement, what it then means is that the expectation is that those who signed it will have the decency, the honor to say, this election has gone well, I did not win. And then, you can then go to court to challenge whatever you think is wrong or accept the result and prepare for another time. So it is important.
Well, gentlemen, I know that we can go on and on with this discussion. I do not want to. I know you also have assignments within the main hall, so I'm going to tell you thank you for now. We might bring you on again. For your lordship, thank you so much. Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka is the Bishop of Sokoto Diocese and also the convener of the National Peace Committee. Mr. Osita Chidoka is the was a former Minister of Aviation and also the Chancellor of the Athena Center, and he was there the night that President Goodluck Jonathan conceded the 2015 elections after he lost. He's been giving us a first-hand account of what transpired that evening. Gentlemen, thank you once more for coming on the program. Well, Victoria is still standing by to give us a feel of what is currently happening in the hall. It's a little fuller than the last time we spoke with her. Victoria, please bring us up to speed.
All right. Well, Malta, there's still more arrivals in the hall, and as you can see, the presidential candidate of the NDC, Mr. Peter Obi, has just arrived, and he's about to grant an interview with reporters present here. But besides Mr. Peter Obi, who is already in the hall, we have Mr. Moile Shore and also more
With what he said, that it
international
was a little
and
easier.
local election observers.
Go and read my tweet. I said, let us not forget those who died in ensuring that the election in Osun was achieved. Wait, when now we should visit them, we should condole their families, and we should remain prayerful and conduct ourselves in a way that in our democracy, nobody needs to die for an election. It shouldn't be. It is painful, and I wish it never happened again.
Do you still believe in the process?
Well, because I want to change the process, I have to go through it. So I have to believe in it.
Beyond
But
the
then,
ceremonial side, some are asking that the condition should actually live by the dictate of the content of the time.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. No, we don't even need to sign this. We're seeking an office where we should be exemplary. You can't answer His Excellency without being an excellent person. So that process that will make you to answer His Excellency should be excellent. And the only way to do it is to conduct yourself properly.
One of the
What's your
just called
biggest
for
fear
a
about
justice accord
2027
as
elections?
opposed to just signing a peace accord. I want a justice accord to be able to penalize those who go against the peace of what they sign. Do you agree with that?
Well, whatever it is, whether we call it just accord or we call it peace accord, that's not seeking. Behavior is taken any day, anytime, must reflect that aspect.
So what you have seen so far, sir, what is your biggest fear ahead of that 2027 election?
I don't have any fear except to say that
Mr. Peter Obi has just finished granting an interview.
please, for the sake of the children of Nigeria, can we have an election where people vote?
The journalists really called for issue-based campaigns as Nigeria officially gets into campaign season starting tomorrow. He's also called for
Who count?
After signing accord, this accord statement here today, if any party, anyone violates, what should be the punishment?
Well, the punishment that Nigeria should know.
Good for them.
Well, Mr. Peter Obi has just finished granting an interview. With journalists where he called for issue-based campaigns as Nigeria officially gets into campaign season starting tomorrow. He's also called for the need for political presidential candidates to conduct themselves in a respectful manner with total respect for the offices they are seeking.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Thank you very much for your reporting. As we just saw there, the arrival of one of the presidential candidates, the candidate of the National Democratic Party. To the venue, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Conference Center. Well, we're back in the studio here where the conversation is still happening ahead of this National Peace Accord, which is to commit political parties and candidates to issue-based campaigns ahead of the general elections. And to further this conversation with me here in the studio, we have three gentlemen. I don't know when we're going to include the woman, but
Chef, you join signal me.
the three gentlemen are here, and I'm going to be starting from my very far right. On my very far right is Samson Itodo, who is the Executive Director of Yaga Africa. Thank you. It's good to see you, Samson.
I'll just use this, okay?
Okay, to avoid problem.
Right. And welcome back from Osun State.
Thank you.
Also here on the panel, we have Mr. Akinbulu, who is Executive Director of Semester. I'm sure that when we come to you, you'll tell us the full meaning of Semester.
Right.
We also have Mr. Larry. Ayogundade, who is here to my immediate right, is Executive Director, International Press Center. And I want to start with you because how easy is this going to be? We know how campaigns generally are. We know how heated they get. We know how, well, some people say it's interesting, but we know how aggravated they can get. What role do you think the media has to play in all of this and making sure that we stick with the issues?
Well, I think the role of the media is all about ensuring.
Hello, Mickey. Are you ready? Yes, a new
Sorry, that
I've sent you a
the
new
agenda
Check the new
that is set for the campaigns
Yes.
is
Okay, please check. I'm waiting. Okay. I'm ready too. I'm waiting for you. Josie, cancel that one and send her the new link.
a public interest agenda, a people's agenda. And that means that we need to go all out there to aggregate the opinions of Nigerian peoples in their different diversities as women, as youths, as students, as
This one.
This one it has to start on. Okay, because it will boot. That's the problem with that internet. It takes the time to boot. Yeah. Hello?
In outstanding capital, we once is about to step inside the room where candidates are called straight to me now.
Okay, go, please. We'll go to you now, please. Has she joined?
in terms of what they really want government to do for them. And those are the issues we should challenge politicians with. I think the challenge we have over time is
You
that
should come to
we
me.
allow.
Huh? What is not coming up? What I'm saying, you come to me now, the studio. Then I think, has she joined? Oh yeah, so come to me now. Then you hook her up. It's on. Hello? Hello, is it on now? Oh yeah, so come to her and then me.
All politicians to dictate what the issues are. Sometimes bothering on things that do not even affect the people, personality clashes, claims, allegations, and the rest of them. And we tend to follow that trend, forgetting that we owe the public a major.
Yes, you're onto the live coverage of the first peace accord. The signing of the first peace accord by the peace committee, spearheaded by General Abdul Salam, retired, His Eminence the Sultan of Sokoto, and of course, Bishop Kuka. Don't forget, that committee is being put together by the Kuka Foundation and sponsored by the European Union. And the event is taking place right now. We'll join our correspondent, Miki Atta, who is on the line to tell us exactly what is happening in the hall. As you can see, interviews are going on. The event proper has not started, but let's see what Mickey has. Yes, hello, Mickey.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Can you
Mickey,
hear
if you
me?
can hear you, if you can see me, or if I can hear you, what's happening right now?
All right. Well, right this moment, as you can see, directly behind me is Mr. Peter Obi.
Hmm.
You know, this is Madam Amapi. This is
Okay.
also who's one of his delegates, and I have just move a little bit because they're just having an internal meeting right this moment. Earlier on, he addressed the fact we have that one that still video. We will also send
Hello,
across
Mickey. I
because
can't see your video. I can't see your video.
okay, it's network.
Yeah.
The
I
network
think
here has
that
been
the
very
network
poor.
is
Can you
just
see it
terrible
now?
today, isn't it?
Yeah, the network is always jumpy here because I can see it flickering
Hmm.
as well. Can
Hmm.
you see me now?
I can't see you. I can't see you.
The network here has been horrible, even not just us.
Hmm.
But let me see if I can go to a different part of the hall
Yes. But
where
but keep
it's
us up to
more net.
speed. Keep us up to speed. What
But even
exactly?
your audio is freezing.
Okay.
Okay, well, right
Keep
now,
us
what
up
we're
to speed
having
as to
here
what
is
is
that,
happening there, aside from what we are watching on the screen.
okay, we have about four of the presidential candidates have arrived. They've all stepped into the room, the holding room, where they said dignitaries enter. But Mr. Peter B said he's not a dignitary, so he's not going to follow them in.
Hmm.
Then we also about two chairmen of about two of the political parties are also present. They have also gone into the room, as well as the convener of the event, Bishop Matthew Hakan Kuka, is inside receiving them. We have Dr. Yusuf Dantwale, the national chairman of Interparty Advisory Council, is here. We have the chairman of the APC, he's present. The chairman of the PRP, Dr. Uh, Hakim Baba Ahmed, is also present at this moment. Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can't see you. Yes, we can't see you. I hope we can even have a pure picture, to be able to add to your voice.
Okay. Network, yes, even if you use a problem because you are freezing. But let me just, if you can hear me, can I
Yes,
tell you the candidates that
yes,
so
yes.
far
We
are
can
ladies
hear
here?
you. We can hear you.
Okay, all right. We have, like I told you, the NDP presidential candidate, Mr. Pete Obi, is here. Like I told you, he was right behind me. They're still having an in-house meeting with some of his officials. Yunus Tonko and some others are involved in the meeting. We have Mr. Moyele Showore is here. He's also gone into the inner room, and we have a couple of members of the Peace Accord Committee. Like I told you, the convener of today's zone is here, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka. We also have a former minister here, Mr. Osita Kidoka. Well, so far, that's where it is now. Yet
Okay.
to kick off.
Okay.
And
Mickey, we'll take a break. Mickey, if you can hear me, we'll take a break and return back. Maybe the network will be much better. And when we come back.
oh my God, okay. Right.
Okay, we can see you now. We can see you now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Is General
Okay, so
Abdusalami
I'm
Abubakar
very
here?
far back. Network has been horrible.
Yes.
Okay, well, over in that corner is where Peter Obi is right this moment. And that was where I was talking to you. The network there was terrible. So my just know that it's in that corner.
Okay.
right? And then over here to this side leads to the holding room where the candidates as well as the chairman are sitting at the moment awaiting takeoff. We'll be told by the organizers they're not going to take off until the arrival of the president himself. Well, from all indications, I think all things being equal, over them saying it should be around 2 o'clock. Uh, in the meantime, we're expecting also chairman of the INEC, Judge Piton, to also be here, as well as the current Inspector General of Police, especially since this is a peace accord signing, we're also expecting him. And we're also expecting the ambassador of Switzerland to Nigeria to be here. Don't forget that the European Union, the EU, are the lead sponsors of today's peace accord signing. Like I told you, it's the first of the signing of the National Peace Accord to commit political parties and their candidates to issue-based campaigns ahead of the 2027 general elections. And like we earlier told you, the kickoff of campaigns is expected to be from midnight. So by tomorrow, campaigning is officially allowed to start.
Okay. All right, Mickey. Are there indication as to what time the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will be there? There indication as to the exact time he will be around? Mickey, can you hear me?
I think I said word whispered 2:30.
2:30. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So we'll take a break, and maybe when the president arrives, we'll still get in touch with you. Yes.
All right.
All right.
In the meantime, when other candidates come in, we'll also give you a thumbs up, a heads up to let you have an idea.
Okay. Is the ADC president around? The former vice president Atiku Abubakar?
No. Just the ones I mentioned. He's not around.
Okay. What about
ADC and APC presidential candidates are not around.
Okay, what about the chairman of the committee itself, General Abdusalami Abubakar? Is he there?
No, he's not yet here.
Okay, what about His Eminence, the Sultan? Is he there?
We're also hoping that the Sultan also will come.
Your Excellency.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we'll take a break and we'll come back. All right. We're moving straight to the venue of the event as we understand it has started. So we'll come back to Mickey in a while. Do stay with us.
all of you to this very important event, the signing ceremony of the first peace accord for the 2027 general election. In particular, I would like to welcome His Excellency President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GCFR, Commander-in-Chief and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hereby today represented by the Secretary to the Federal Government. I would equally like to welcome all political parties, the party chairmen, and the presidential, if there are gubernatorial candidates and National Assembly candidates to this event, you are all welcome. Similarly, I welcome the diplomatic community, particularly the ambassadors of the EU, US, UK, France, Germany, and our colleagues from the UN, ECOWAS, and the UN office in West Africa. Furthermore, I welcome all our partners, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joe Amunitan, Amupitan, the senior advocate of Nigeria, and all INEC commissioners, the Inspector General of Police, hereby represented by DIG and Nadada, civil society organization, media houses, and everyone who has responded to our invitation to come and be chief of witnesses of the signing of the peace accord on issue-based campaign. Since 2015, the National Peace Committee facilitated 30 peace accord 25 to help submit the work of the committee at the national level. The issue-based campaign peace accord we are signing today was established in 2019 to promote political campaigns and rally based on issues related to Nigeria rather than sentiment. It is an accord that calls on political parties and candidates to compete fairly on the issue of ideas, policies, and programs, debate opposition views respectfully, mobilize supporters peacefully and responsibly, protect voters and respect electoral institutions, and reject hate speech, incitement, misinformation, and other forms of spiteful narrative that will lead to intimidation and violence, capable of undermining electoral integrity. Over the years, political campaigns and rallies have neglected the significance of party manifestos and programs and create the platform of political parties to restore to name calling, personal insult, and character assassination. Political campaign have taken away civility and decency in public discourse and conversation and have created a toxic atmosphere that has the potential to incite citizens against the state, against other political parties and candidates. It is for this reason that since 2019, the Peace Committee has established the first peace accord to encourage issue-based campaign. It has annotated the peace accord linking every clause of the provision of the Constitution, the Electoral Act, and other extant laws. This ensures that the commitment contained in the accord are firmly anchored in the existing legal framework and serve as a clear reminder to political actors of their obligation and responsibility throughout the electoral processes. Central to this effort is the establishment of the Election Security Information, ESI for short, the HOP, a dedicated for elections security information that monitors electoral offenses and broadens security development and analysis their potential impact and elections across Nigeria. The hub provides a platform for monitoring, verifying, and analyzing election security development and produces regular monthly threat assessment and contextual analysis to support early warning, preventive engagement, and evidence-based decision making. Collectively, this initiative demonstrates the committee's commitment to moving beyond electoral peace message towards a comprehensive approach that combines contextual understanding, preventive diplomacy, stakeholders engagement, citizen participation, legal compliance, field level monitoring, evidence-based analysis, and accountability throughout the electoral cycle. Now that the 2027 general election is 5 months away and the official commitment of campaign is tomorrow, the National Peace Committee is today committing all political parties, party chairmen, candidates, and campaign spokespersons to peaceful political rallies, devoid of incitement, personal insult, and attack. Therefore, on behalf of all the members of the National Peace Committee and all Nigerians, I'm appealing to all the political parties, party chairmen, candidates, campaign council, and their spokespersons to please campaign based on issues that are of significant concern to Nigerians. Avoid the spread of false and fake news, personal attack, and insults. Promote respect and tolerance for differences in opinion. Ensure civility and decency in public discourse and comply with the spirit and the letter of the accord. Finally, I would like to thank all the members of the Peace Committee for their commitment and dedication to the peace and unity of this country. I would like to thank the European Union and the Swiss for their technical partnership and support. My appreciation goes to all the members of the National Peace Committee's Secretariat and the team for the good works they have been doing. May God bless and protect Nigeria. Thank you and good afternoon.
May God bless and protect Nigeria. Please, a round of applause for His Excellency. Thank you so much, General, for those words. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's about a decade now since the National Peace Committee has remained steadfast in its commitment to fostering peaceful, transparent, and credible elections in Nigeria. And today happens to be one of those days when we bring together relevant key stakeholders to commit themselves to peaceful processes before, during, and after the elections. Today is not about party colors, it's about the Nigerian color. That is the green and the white of Nigeria. Today is not about people coming from north, south, east, and west, but it's about people coming together as Nigeria. Of course, with the support and the friendly partnership of the diplomatic community. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we go to the next on our program of events, just to remind us, in case you just walked in, that this signing is about going for issues and avoiding insult. Decent campaigns, no hate speech, no fake news, no attacks on religion, tribe, or persons. Nigeria belongs to each and every one of us. It is against this backdrop, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome for the presentation on national context of emerging issues. If your hands are not busy, please join us as we welcome Mr. Asabe Ndai, the project manager, Coca Center, for this. Please, a round of applause for her as she comes forward. We can do it. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and the good people of our great country, Nigeria. Kindly permit me to stand on the already established protocol. I am Asabe Ndahi, and I serve as a project manager at the Kuka Center, Secretariat of the National Peace Committee. It is a great privilege to welcome you all to this important occasion of the first signing of the National Peace Accord ahead of the 2027 general elections, which is a significant step towards promoting peaceful and credible elections in Nigeria. We're not here to merely sign a document. We're here to establish a standard of political conduct. Hence, the theme of this presentation is From Commitment to Accountability. But I'll first start by explaining what the Peace Accord is. The Peace Accord is a public commitment by political parties and candidates to peaceful political competition, respect for the rule of law, democratic accountability, and the will of the people. The Peace Committee facilitates the two Peace Accord to ensure peaceful, issue-based campaigns for the first signing, and for the second signing, it is to ensure that political actors accept the electoral outcomes, and where they are aggrieved, they can seek legal redress. But I also want to give a brief history of the National Peace Committee. The National Peace Committee was conceptualized in 2014 under the advisement of the former UN Secretary General, the late Kofi Annan, and Chief Emeka Anyoko, the former Commonwealth Secretary General. This was in response to the wide fears of violence that were linked to the 2015 presidential election campaigns. We saw malicious campaigns using ethnic, religious sentiments and hate speech amidst the existential and emerging security threats already in the country at the time. We also recall the 2011 post-election violence, which seems to be the most violent elections that we've had since the return to democracy in 1999. And in order to avert all of this danger, The committee was convened by His Lordship Dr. Matthew Hassan Kuka under the chairmanship of General Absalam. The committee currently has 17 members, many of whom are present today. The core mandate of the committee is to provide moral intervention and alternative dispute resolution platform for critical election stakeholders and to contribute to peaceful, credible, free and fair elections. The committee has also facilitated the signing of peace accords, and today we signed the 31st peace accord. I think that the committee deserves a round of applause for its contribution to stability and democracy in Nigeria. Finally, the committee offers national mediation in post-electoral disputes or crises. Now, in the month of March 2026, the committee convened different electoral stakeholders and presented to them the annotations to the peace accord. So the accord we'll be signing today, it's not just a document, but it's a document that is backed by law. I would like to just state that the peace accord is a reflection of the Constitution, the Electoral Act, the INEC guidelines and regulations, and all the other legal frameworks that govern our electoral process. And I'll give you an example using the clause 2 of the accord that will be signed today. And I read that I, as a political chairman or a political party chairman or a candidate, will ensure that I, my campaign spokesperson, officials and supporters will refrain from creating, publishing, disseminating, endorsing, or knowingly amplifying fake news and misinformation during our campaign engagements, where such conduct is intended to incite violence and undermine the integrity of the electoral process. And this is backed by Section 22, 13. Nine, 42, and 45 of the Constitution of Expression. To establish the boundaries within which political competition must take place. We're here also today to set standards for the 2027 campaigns before political competition escalates into electoral conflict. As we know, the clock is ticking. Today, we're 152 days away from the presidential election and 172 days away from the governorship and state house of assembly election. And so we're here to make sure that as we sign this accord today, that we are committing to Nigerians that our competition will not become hostility and disagreements will not degenerate to violence. Political mobilization will not become intimidation. Electoral disputes will not become conflict. And finally, information does not become a weapon against electoral integrity. And I'm going to present to you lessons from the 2022 Peace Accord, because in 2022 September, the Peace Accord was signed just like this one to ensure that parties commit themselves to issue-based campaign. And today we have the results. This is not simply a theoretical concern. We have evidence from previous electoral cycles that shows us where breach was also breached to 9%. All the other clauses of the accord were equally breached, were also breached, but not in equal numbers. And speaking further on the clause that was particularly breached, which is the clause to conduct issue-based campaign, we had a lot of violations. 58% of those violations were from spokespersons. And the number of states that were affected out of the 36 were 22 states. The most affected states were Kaduna, Plateau, Kano, Lagos, Rivers, and Benue. So we say political language is not just communication. In a tense and electoral environment, it can actually become a risk signal. We talk about the trends, the patterns, and the risk signals. Since the conclusion of the 2023 general election, the Independent National Electoral Commission has conducted at least 70 elections, which include the 8th off-cycle elections, the last of which was concluded just last week with the Osun State election. And then we've had repeated signing in the off-cycle election. We've had by-elections and rerun elections. And most of the trends, patterns, and risk signals we've seen include vote buying and inducement, misinformation and disinformation, intimidation of opponents and victims, political violence and thuggery, kidnapping and attacks and criminality, attacks at rallies, meetings, and campaign events, destruction of campaign offices, billboards, and vehicles, clashes between rival parties and supporters, and attacks on candidates, party supporters, and campaign teams. We must note that one offense is an incident. A pattern is a warning signal, revealing trends that may require early attention and preventive action. The value of monitoring is not in counting yesterday's problems, it is in identifying tomorrow's risks. And following that, we see what are the possible risks that could undermine the 2027 elections. As we look to these elections, the risks are not isolated. They fall broadly into three interconnected areas. These risks, as we see, as I will be speaking about them, can reinforce one another, and all of this can ultimately undermine confidence in the electoral process. We have violence and intimidation risks, which includes political violence, threats, intimidations, and attacks on electoral infrastructure. We also have electoral manipulation risks, which include vote buying or inducement, voter suppression, and electoral malpractice. And then for the last category, we have hate speech, incitement, misinformation, identity-based mobilization, and political manipulation. But what is important is that the Electoral Act of 2026 has provided adequate provisions in the law, spelling out what is an offense and what the penalties are. And I think that it behoves on the Electoral Commission to ensure that whoever is found in breach of these electoral offenses should be held accountable. So we want to speak more about the electoral ESI Hub. As I said, the ESI Hub is a repository for election security information that gathers, analyzes, and shares verified data on insecurity and electoral offenses and its impact on elections. And this is done to support evidence-based decision-making among electoral stakeholders. As we see today, the Peace Accord establishes the standard for political conduct, but it is the ESI Hub that will provide the evidence needed to monitor that particular commitment. The two frameworks that the ESI Hub deploys include the Election-Related Violence Tracker, which tracks insecurity that has a tendency to impact on elections, and the Electoral Offenses Tracking System, which tracks electoral laws violation, the Peace Accord violations, and all other institutional abuses during elections. And so this is a risk map of Nigeria based on the methodology used by the ESI Hub. And this data is an aggregate of what has been gathered from June 2025, when the ESI Hub was established, to August 2026. And in terms of insecurity, we have 2,510 recorded incidents. The most affected states are Zamfara, Borno, Kaduna, Niger, Kwara, Benue, and Plateau. And the top threats include banditry, kidnapping, cultism, and terrorism. For the electoral offenses, we have recorded 381 incidents, and the most affected states include FCT, Osun, Oyo, Ondo, and Lagos. And the top threats again include vote buying, political violence, thuggery, and physical attacks. We see that risk is geographically uneven, but concentrated around specific political and security hotspots. And I'll just recap again the top insecurity threats in Nigeria. As I've just mentioned, banditry, kidnapping, cultism, terrorism, armed robbery, political violence, farmer-herder conflict, and communal clash. Insecurity becomes an electoral risk when it constrains participation, fuels fear, and disrupts political competition. And so we cannot fold our hands and allow insecurity to continue, because that is a threat to democratic participation. The top electoral offenses in Nigeria include vote buying, political violence, information disorder, political intimidation, political party conflicts, INEC security agency and institutional misconduct, civil unrest and protest activities, electoral misconduct, rigging and result manipulation, campaign and election material violations, and lastly, voter suppression and access restrictions. The threat to electoral integrity is multidimensional, as we can see. Physical violence, electoral offenses, political disputes, and information disorder can reinforce one another, creating conditions that undermine public confidence and the credibility of the electoral process. The journey to electoral violence often begins before the campaign period. The grievances, the rivalries, and mobilization networks formed during party primaries can carry into campaigns, and if left unmanaged, escalate into electoral violence. Therefore, it is imperative to address the drivers of these tensions early. And following the succession of the primaries into the campaign periods, these are some of the major issues that we have seen. We saw intra-party disputes and factionalization. We also saw defections and political realignments. litigation and legal challenges, primary nomination disputes, misinformation and disinformation again, vote buying and inducement, threats, intimidation and thuggery, hate speech and inflammatory rhetorics, physical violence attack, and campaign rally disruption. We must note that electoral violence often has a history before becomes an incident. The risks observed during party primaries can evolve into campaign period tensions and, if unmanaged, contribute to electoral violence. So, what then do we do? What the campaigns Nigerians want to see, or should I say the campaign the good people of Nigeria deserve? We recommend that political parties and candidates in the period of this campaign conduct peaceful, issue-based campaign, debate policies and ideas vigorously but respectfully. For campaign teams and supporters, we expect you to mobilize responsibly and do not cause any violence or intimidation in the process of mobilization. As for the party and candidate's spokesperson, we expect a lot from you because this is where most of the issues start. We expect responsible messaging, kindly verify information, and avoid inflammatory or inciting statements. As for the media and CSO, verify information before amplifying, conduct evidence-based advocacy. Security agencies, we expect security sector neutrality from you, restraint and equal protection for all citizens and for candidates as well. For traditional and religious leaders, we continue to remain the gatekeepers of our society, kindly promote peace and discourage inflammatory rhetoric during this campaign period. As for the electoral institution, we expect impartiality, transparency, and consistent enforcement. For my dear Nigerian citizens, or my fellow Nigerian citizens, let us shun violence, inducement, and inflammatory rhetoric. A peaceful campaign requires responsible conduct from all actors. Responsible leadership shapes responsible campaigns. And this brings us to perhaps the most important shift in this year's peace accord mechanism, from signing to monitoring. After today's signing, the Election Security Information Hub will continue to monitor, verify, document, escalate, and give these records to the Peace Committee. The National Peace Committee will engage in preventive diplomacy based on evidence, but then we beckon on all stakeholders, particularly INEC and the security agencies, to be on the alert during this campaign season and make sure that they ensure that the candidates and the party chairmen conduct themselves in a responsible manner. The real test of the peace accord is what political actors do after they leave this room. Today's signing ceremony marks the beginning of a monitored commitment to peaceful political competition. In conclusion, the signature is only the beginning. Today, we sign a commitment. From tomorrow, that commitment must become conduct. The true measure of this accord will not be the signatures on this document, but the choices made in the heat of political competition. How leaders speak, how campaigns are conducted, how supporters are mobilized, and how disagreements are managed. Peaceful elections are not secured by promises alone. They are secured when those promises are consistently translated into responsible action. The commitment is ours, the responsibility is collective, and posterity will judge us not by what we promised today, but by what we did with that promise. The legacy of this accord will be written not in the ink of your signatures, but in the peace, dignity, and integrity we leave behind. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
One more round of warm applause for Mr. Sakwe Tai, Project Manager at the Center within the Secretary of the National Peace Committee. Thank you for that reminder that we all have a role to play in ensuring peaceful campaigns and ultimately peaceful elections, whether you're a candidate, a supporter, a spokesperson, a traditional leader, security, we all have a role to play. Thank you for that extensive background and context to what the peace accord is all about. And a reminder also that a peace accord is not merely a paper. No, it is a powerful and enforceable document that is binding on all the signatories. And it's good to hear that it's in alignment with the laws of land. Thank you very much once again. We'll now switch gears and move swiftly to the messages of peace. What is a peace accord signing without messages of peace from our stakeholders and partners? But we appeal to our speakers to share their message within the allotted time, which is 5 minutes. I will begin from the platforms, the political parties, and to speak on behalf of all the political parties, please welcome with me Dr. Yusuf Dantale, the National Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, for his message of peace. Please let's give a warm applause to Dr. Dantale as he makes his way forward. Thank you.
The President, Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, GCFR, and ably represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Senate President represented by the Deputy Senate President, the Speaker ably represented by the Deputy Speaker of the House, the Chief Organizer of the Peace Accord, General Absalam Abubakar, here represented by General Agway, my father, Bishop Kuka, the Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the Inspector General of Police, religious fathers here present, the National Chairman of the star political parties here present, presidential candidates, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, good afternoon. I will start by commending the Peace Committee for what you have been doing for this country, and we truly appreciate it and will continue to work with you at all levels. Nigeria is one country that is so blessed that there's no country in this on this continent that can accommodate refugee problem from Nigeria if, God forbid, there is an aberration. And we all chose democracy as the way of government. And democracy is about inclusion of every segment of the society, irrespective of religious affiliation, irrespective of party affiliations, that we must abide by. And for that reason, we have this responsibility to ensure that any government that will be produced in the course of a democratic exercise should be legitimate, so that Nigerians can respect or obey the constituted authority that is the outcome of such exercise. While we are doing this today, sir, this is to the peace accord. Leaders, you are able to put Nigerians together like this because we are respected Nigerians. We will live to respect you. But when we pursue peace in the absence of justice, it becomes illusionary. Let me thank the INEC for what you just did in Osun State. We congratulate you. You did so well. And we pray and believe that this will continue. And also thank civil society organizations like the Yaga Africa and others who came together to ensure that we have this process seamlessly. We need this to continue in the 2027 general elections. And we must look at a few infractions where people who have no vote in a particular place, like sitting governors, will troop to one where they don't have vote and threaten a man who has a vote, they are always contesting election, that will remove you. We should be looking at some of these things. These are aberrations to what we are doing here. We should be able to caution ourselves. And where we have people or governors or using state institution to deny other contestants means of campaign, like imposition of outrageous taxes for placement of billboards and others. We should look at some of these things going forward. I thank you so much. We must continue to live in peace, but we should also uphold justice where there's need for justice, so that all of us can enjoy this democracy in peace. Thank you so much. I will continue to do what you did once again. You did so well. Thank you.
Once again, a warm applause for Dr. Dantale, the chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council. Thank you very much for those words of peace and for also keeping it to time. We appreciate you. Well, in his speech, he mentioned an agency more than twice, and I consider it fitting to invite the head of that agency next, because credible elections require credible institutions. And the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, remains central to Nigeria's electoral process. It is therefore my pleasure to invite the Honourable Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor George Amukwiton, SAN, to deliver his goodwill message. Please a warm applause for Professor George Amukwiton as he delivers his message of peace and goodwill message. Thank you.
Traditional and religious leaders, esteemed members of the media, fellow citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is Herbert Hobart who said, peace is not made at the council table or by treaty, but peace is made on the heart of men. Therefore, the essence of this very epoch-making occasion in Africa's largest democracy that is about to unfold in the year of our Lord 2027 is the heartbeat, not just of Africa, but of the world. So it's therefore my profound honor to stand before you today on behalf of the Independent National Electoral Commission. We gather here not merely as a ritual political tradition, but as a deliberate act of patriotism. I wish to start by commending the National Peace Committee. For years, you have been moral compass of our electoral system, reminding us that while we may differ in our political versions, we are united by one map, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For over a decade, since its pioneering intervention in 2015, the National Peace Committee has provided an invaluable moral anchor for our republic, convening political actors to disarm hostility and commit to non-violence. Coming immediately after the successful, peaceful conclusion of the Osun State governorship election just 3 days ago, on Saturday, 15th day of August 2026, I am honored to stand before you as we transition from the off-circle successes to the grand national stage ahead of the 2027 general election. As far as we are concerned, all those off-circle elections, they were just milestones and not the destination. Tomorrow, Wednesday, 19th of August 2026, marks the statutory commencement of public campaigns and rallies for the 2027 general election, as stipulated in the Electoral Act and the revised timetable and schedule of activities released by the Commission. As we are all aware, the presidential and National Assembly elections will take place on Saturday, 16th of January 2027, while the governorship and the state houses of assembly will be held on the 6th of February 2027. That we gather on the very eve of this crucial milestone of commencement of political campaign is both deliberate and profound. Before the first campaign flag is unfurled, before the first rally is staged, and before our political rhetoric fills our public space, it is necessary that those who seek to lead this nation first gather to establish the ethical boundaries of their contest. At this stage, may I refer the political parties to the relevant provisions of the Electoral Act, most especially sections 96 to 102 of the Electoral Act, as well as paragraphs 29 to 36 of the Political Parties Regulation enacted by INEC, which contains guidelines, rules, and regulations for the conduct of campaigns. Today, signing of the first National Peace Accord therefore marks a critical milestone. We are exactly 5 months away from the 2027 general election. The world is watching, but more importantly, the Nigerian people, the youths, the farmers, the entrepreneurs, and the elderly, they are watching all of us. They are not just asking for much. They are simply asking for a process that is credible and a campaign that respects their intelligence. We must be candid about the realities confronting our democratic space. Recent data from the NPC, Election Committee Information Hub, indicates an alarming resurgence of hate speech, toxic polarization, coordinated misinformation, and personally driven political discourse. As preparations for the 2027 general election intensify, we are witnessing a disturbing shift from policy-driven engagement towards character assassination, identity-based provocation, and inflammatory rhetorics. If left unchecked, this trend threatens to poison the public square, erode civil trust, and ignite avoidable conflict across our societies. When we talk of issue-based campaign, we're talking of campaign in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Electoral Act, the Constitution of the political parties, as well as the manifestos contained therein. Electoral contest is a constitutional democracy and not just total wars. They are competitive job interviews before the electorate. It's just like seeking a job. And therefore, you must succumb to the rules as if it's a competitive job interview. The 2027 general election presents complex issue, economic, security, and developmental questions, and demand rigorous, intellectual, and policy-focused debates. Nigerians do not want insults. They want solutions. They deserve to hear clear, concrete, and measurable manifestos detailing how political parties intend to drive economic growth, bolster national security, expand infrastructure, improve healthcare, modernize education, and foster social inclusion. Today, the Accord is a solemn pledge to elevate public discourse to these substantive issues. By signing this accord, you are committed to an issue-based campaign. This is a significant departure from the politics of character assassination, identity manipulation, and inflammatory rhetorics. Nigeria's challenges and indeed our opportunities are too great for us to spend this election cycle in trenches of bitterness. For the Commission, that is INEC, our moral authority to demand decorum from political actors rests squarely on our own administrative and technological preparedness. I am pleased to report that our preparation for the 2027 general elections are progressing with absolute precision. We are scaling our operational logistics to manage a massive nationwide ad hoc workforce of 1.4 million personnel across over 176,000 polling units. As the electoral umpire, INEC commitment to you and the people of Nigeria is unwavering. Our responsibility is to ensure that the ballot is protected and the will of the voters is reflected in the final results. We have spent the last 8 months refining our technologies, enhancing our logistics, and training our personnel. The outcome is reflected in the governorship elections we conducted in Anambra State in November 2025, the FCT Area Council election in February 2026, the Ekiti State governorship election in June 2026, and the recently concluded Osun State governorship election, apart from 13 off-cycle by-elections that were also conducted within the time I took over. As I've often said, INEC cannot deliver a perfect election alone. An election is a multi-stakeholder venture. We provide the pitch and the refereeing, but the quality of the game depends on the players. When candidates and parties prioritize peace, our job becomes exponentially more effective. When we notice the situation in Osun State, after the peace accord that was signed, we came back and went to the drawing table, and we had to retreat to all the security agencies under ISIS, so that you cannot have a successful election if there's no peace. And we needed peace in Osun State. So I want to thank the security agencies for responding to that and for ensuring that the election was basically peaceful. Now, a call to the candidates and party leaders, to the presidential candidates and party chairmen gathered here. The document you are about to sign is not a mere piece of paper. It is a covenant and a social contract with the Nigerian people. And it is a contract with statutory and constitutional flavor, of which, as we heard from Barrister Sabe, I have the mandate of the law to enforce in line with in the company of the law enforcement agents. It is a covenant and a social contract with the Nigerian people. So lead by example. That is number one. As you sign this, lead by example. Your supporter looks to you for cues. Now addressing the presidential candidates. Your supporters look to you for cues. If you speak the language of peace, they will act with peace. If you incite them, they will ignite. 2, focus on what and how. Tell the voters what you will do for the economy, security, and education, and how you intend to achieve it. Let the 2027 campaign be a marketplace of ideas, not a theater of war. 3, respect the umpire and the law. We welcome constructive criticism. It makes us better. But we urge you to refrain from preemptive declarations of victory or spread of information that undermines public confidence in our democratic institution. In an era dominated by rapid digital communication, we must also confront the menace of misinformation, disinformation, and foreign information manipulation and interference. Fake news and unverified premature declaration of results are designed to trigger panic and subvert public order. I call on all political parties to restrain their digital media teams, official spokesmen, and online youth wing from weaponizing falsehood to gain temporary political advantage. Addressing the incumbent, Your Excellency, Mr. President, your presence here through your secretary to the federal government today as both the president and a candidate signals a commitment to the stability of our country. The neutrality of state apparatus is the bedrock of any credible election, and we look forward to the process where the incumbency remains a platform for service to Nigerian people. The 2027 general election must be improvement on all our previous efforts. We're introducing further transparency measures in the result management process to ensure that the people's choice is not just a slogan, but a reality. This is not the absence of competition, it is the presence of rules and willingness to abide by them. Let us compete vigorously, but let us compete decently. Let us remember that at the end of this exercise, there will be no winners if Nigeria is the loser. Let me state unequivocally that INEC has no interest in who wins or loses any election. The Commission does not have a candidate, nor does it favor any political platform. Our only interest is a lawful, transparent, credible, and inclusive process. We will act as an uncompromising, impartial umpire, ensuring a level playing field for all contestants. As I sign this first national accords today as a witness and the Chief Electoral Officer of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I call on all registered political parties and presidential candidates and other candidates to internalize every lines of this agreement. Let us show our citizens and international community the Nigerian democracy, being the largest in Africa, has matured beyond destructive conflict into a refined policy-driven contest of ideas. Let us work together to ensure that the journey to 2027 is remembered not by the division, discord, or inflammatory rhetorics but as a triumph of Nigerian democratic spirit. INEC is ready. Nigeria is expectant. Let us make the 2027 general election a shining example of African democracy, Nigeria being the largest democracy in Africa. In closing, I want to thank the National Peace Committee once again for this initiative. To the candidate, as we pick up the pen today, remember that the ink represents the hopes of over 200 million Nigerians. Write a history of peace. Write a story of progress. May God bless the National Peace Committee. May God bless the Independent National Electoral Commission and continue to guide the Federal Republic of Nigeria towards enduring peace, unity, and progress. Thank you all.
Another round of applause for able chairman and also one who has been at the forefront of ensuring that our elections are credible and also peaceful. You agree with me too that the national chairman, talking about INEC here, has been very consistent, especially when it has to do with sign of the peace accord. Thank you very much, Prof. Remember your words when you say the 2027 general elections must be a marketplace of ideas, not a theater of war. And so let us compete decently. Thank you so much for your work. Please, another round of applause for the INEC chairman. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are gradually getting to the point where we gather to sign the peace accord. But until then, just to remind us that we must learn to focus on building bridges, like the chairman mentioned, of love and unity, not walls of hatred and division. It is freedom of speech, and freedom of speech does not mean the freedom to spread hate. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, three things before I call on the next speaker that we need to take note. That today is about saying yes to decent campaigns, respect for institutions, and safety for citizens. It is against that backdrop when we talk about safety for citizens that I wish to invite to the podium. Or the Goodwill message. None but when we know so much, when we say the police, of course, actually our friends. Please join us as we welcome for the Goodwill message the Inspector General of Police, Olatunjiri Wandisu, here represented by the DIG Umar Shehu Nadada. A round of applause, please, as he comes forward. Thank you so much.
Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented by Senator George Akume, GCON, permit me to stand on the already established protocol. It is a great pleasure to be part of this important national engagement, and I wish to commend His Excellency General Abdusalam A. Abubakar, GCFR, and the distinguished members of the National Peace Committee for their continued patriotism, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to strengthening Nigeria's democratic journey. The peace accord over the years has become an important moral instrument in our political process. It reminds political actors that while elections are contests for political leadership, Nigeria itself must remain greater than any election, political party, or individual ambition. Today's gathering is, however, particularly significant. It is not simply another peace accord ahead of an election. It is first national peace accord being signed at the commencement of political campaigns for the 2027 general elections. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the security of an election is not created on the day of the election. It is built gradually through the conduct of political parties, candidates, supporters, and other stakeholders throughout electoral cycle. The language we use during campaigns matters. The issues we choose to emphasize matter. The manner in which we respond to political disagreements matters. A political campaign should be a contest of ideas, policies, programs, and competing visions for the future of our country. It should not be a contest of hatred, intimidation, ethnic mobilization, religious divisions, or violence. We must therefore collectively reject hate speech, inflammatory rhetoric, incitement, disinformation, deliberate manipulation of ethnic or religious sentiments for political advantage. We must also recognize that words can have consequences. A statement made at any political rally, on television, online, or through social media can travel within seconds to millions of people. When such statements are deliberately designed to provoke anger or hostility, it can transform political disagreements into violence. This is why I urge all political leaders and candidates to exercise the highest level of responsibility in their public communications throughout the campaign period. Distinguished guests, Nigeria Police Force recognizes that democracy requires vigorous political competition. We have no interest in determining who wins or loses an election. Our interest is in ensuring every Nigerian is able to participate in the democratic process freely, safely, and without fear. The police will therefore remain professional, impartial, and guided by the Constitution of the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We will work closely with the Independent National Electoral Commission, the military, the intelligence community, and other security and law enforcement agencies to provide the security environment necessary for political activities and credible elections. But security agencies cannot secure elections alone. Political parties and candidates have a fundamental responsibility to help create the environment in which elections can be peacefully conducted. We therefore appeal to all political actors to ensure that their supporters, campaign organizations, and agents conduct themselves responsibly throughout the campaign period. In particular, political parties must take responsibility for the conduct of those who campaign on their behalf. You cannot publicly preach peace while privately encouraging violence. You cannot call for a credible election while simultaneously undermining the constitution, the institutions responsible for conducting them. And you cannot seek the mandate of the Nigerian people while creating fear among every citizen whose votes you seek. I must also emphasize that the police will not tolerate the use of political talks, armed groups, criminal elements, or other unlawful structures to intimidate opponents, disrupt political meetings, or interfere with the electoral process. The acquisition, distribution, or use of illegal firearms or other weapons for political purposes will be treated as a serious security threat. Similarly, we must collectively reject the practice of mobilizing young Nigerians into violent political movements and then abandoning them when the elections are over. Our young people should be instruments of democratic renewal, not instruments of political violence. Therefore, there is another dimension of this conversation that deserves emphasis: inclusivity. Nigeria's democracy must provide space for all citizens to participate meaningfully, irrespective of gender, ethnicity, religion, age, disability, or social status. Women, young people, persons with disabilities, and other traditionally underrepresented groups must be able to participate in political activities without intimidation, discrimination, or violence. A peaceful election is not merely one in which there is no violence. It is one in which citizens feel sufficiently secure and confident to exercise their democratic rights. This is why the police will continue to engage political parties, candidates, civil society organizations, traditional institutions, religious leaders, youth groups, and other stakeholders as we prepare for the 2027 elections. Our objective is to prevent security threats before they materialize, respond professionally where incidents occur, and ensure that no individual or group is allowed to place the democratic forces at risk. The peace accord being signed today should therefore not be viewed as a ceremonial document. Its true value will be determined by what happens after the signatures are offended. The real test begins when campaigns become instance, when political competition becomes heated, when allegations are made, when results are disputed, and when political interests are placed under pressure. This is when the commitments made here today must become real. I therefore respectfully call upon all political parties, candidates, and their supporters to sign this accord not only with their hands, but with their conscience. Let us make the 2027 campaign a contest in which Nigeria hear what each political party and candidate intends to do for the country. Let us debate the economy, security, education, healthcare, environment, infrastructure, agriculture, technology, and the future of our young people. Let us challenge ideas with better ideas. Let us defeat political arguments with superior arguments. And let Nigerian people ultimately decide through the ballot. As Inspector General of Police, I assure this gathering that the Nigerian Police will continue to work tirelessly with all relevant stakeholders to provide a secure environment for political campaigns and the eventual conduct of peaceful, credible, free, fair, and inclusive elections. We will remain guided by the principles of professionalism, impartiality, accountability, and respect for the rule of law. But we equally ask every political actor to understand the responsibility for peaceful elections does not belong to the security agencies alone. It belongs to all of us. The 2027 general elections must not be remembered for violence, hate, or division. They should be remembered as an important demonstration of Nigeria's democratic maturity and our collective ability to disagree politically without becoming enemies. Your Excellencies and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we commence this journey towards the 2027 general elections, let us remember that political power is temporary, but Nigeria is permanent. No political victory is worse than the loss of a Nigerian life. No political ambition is worth the destruction of our communities. And no election is worth compromising the peace and unity of our nation. I commend the National Peace Committee once again for this timely initiative and urge all parties to this accord to honor its letter and its spirit through the campaign and electoral process. May the 2027 general elections be peaceful, credible, free, fair, and inclusive. May our political leaders demonstrate the statesmanship required for this defining moment in our national journey. And may Almighty God continue to guide our leaders, protect our citizens, and bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Another round of applause for the DIG. Thank you so much, sir. Political power is temporary, but Nigeria is permanent. Great words from the DIG, also reminding us that the interest of the police is to ensure every Nigerian participates in the electoral process freely, safely, and without fear. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before I call on the next, we just have two more goodwill messages, and then we go straight to the signing of the peace accord. The DIG mentioned the need to mobilize young Nigerians for peaceful processes. I think just to add that there is a negative stereotyping of young people as people who are violent and people who probably are not ready to make a positive difference. But today we have a positive narrative about young people. I believe that the youth are ready to be used as instruments of peace building and instruments of building a better Nigeria. And together, like you mentioned, talking about inclusivity, the youth, women, and persons with disabilities. Together, we can build a better Nigeria. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, straight to the next on our program of event today on the agenda. For the National Peace Committee, we don't believe in running in isolation. We believe in collaborative efforts, working with partners, and also working with the diplomatic community. It is against that backdrop that we have one of our donors here, one who for over 10 years now have been very much supportive of the work we do in ensuring that we build a more peaceful, and also a very great country, our country, Nigeria. Please permit me as a welcome to the podium. None but His Excellency Gautier Mignot, the European Union Ambassador and head of delegation of the European Union to Nigeria and ECOWAS, ably represented by Agnieszka Torres, the charges the first. Please a round of applause as she comes forward. We can do better. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me stand on existing protocols. I'm honored to address you here on behalf of my ambassador, the EU ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Gautier Mignot, at the first signature ceremony of the 2027 National Peace Accord by the presidential candidates. In 2023, Nigeria once again set an example for Africa and for the world through the peaceful transition of power from one civilian administration to another. As we look ahead to the 2027 general elections, our shared hope, and when I say shared, I really mean it, it's that Nigeria will take further steps to consolidate its democracy through fair, credible, transparent, and peaceful elections. As the largest democracy in Africa, and this was emphasized very much today, elections in Nigeria matter greatly. First and foremost, they matter for Nigerians, but they also matter to the rest of the continent as Nigeria carries responsibility to lead and to inspire other African countries. You, the leaders of political parties, you hold special duty in this regard. Your commitment to the peace accord is a powerful signal. You have a vital role to play in ensuring peaceful, content campaigns with a firm stance against violence, against hate speech, and against disinformation. Campaigns promoting respect, inclusivity, and tolerance. You are role models for the voters and for citizens, especially for Nigeria's youth who are looking to you for guidance and for an example. All stakeholders must play their part. The integrity of the process depends on clear and collective commitment to the rules and to the institutions. In this context, we must all respect the fundamental role of the Independent National Electoral Commission. INEC must operate freely, without any pressure and without any interference. In turn, it must demonstrate its neutrality and its independence. INEC's transparency, its professionalism, and its accountability will be essential for public confidence. We also expect the security agencies to maintain strict neutrality and to guarantee safety for all voters. DIG, thank you so much for all your commitment. And personally, I would like to thank you for mentioning gender and women in the electoral process. You're the only one, I guess, except for the MC that mentioned it today. So, as a woman, the only woman on stage today, although representing my ambassador who's a man, thank you profoundly, sir. I wish to commend the National Peace Committee, with whom the European Union and International Committee works very much. You proved your role. It was vital in 2015. In 2019 and also in 2023, and you're very relevant and very important in the elections coming ahead of us. The European Union and its member states wishes to reiterate their impartiality. We are not here to support any political party or any candidate other than Nigeria, its people, and its democracy. I would like to congratulate you for signature that will happen in a few moments. The signature of the First National Peace Accord. Thank you so much.
There's a warm applause once again to Agnieszka Torres, Chargé d'Affaires of the EU delegation to Nigeria, and ECOWAS representing His Excellency Gautier Mignot. Well, the European Union is proof that peace is never achieved in isolation. It is achieved with partnership, a partnership with the right people. So thank you once again to the European Union delegation in Nigeria for partnering with the National Peace Committee to make this a big success. And speaking of partnerships, we also have the honor of welcoming His Excellency Patrick Felix Igloff, the ambassador of Switzerland to Nigeria, for his goodwill message. He's ably represented by Mr. Siamak Luwani, the Chargé d'Affaires, Embassy of Switzerland in Nigeria. Please a warm applause to Mr. Siamak Luwani as he comes forward to deliver a good message.
Excellencies, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I suspect that Coyote has a Swiss watch, so in the interest of time, please allow me to stand on the already well-observed protocol. It is a pleasure to join you today for the signing of the first National Peace Accord on issue-based campaigns ahead of Nigeria's 2027 national and general elections. On behalf of the Government of Switzerland, I commend the National Peace Committee and the KUKA Center for convening this important engagement. The message of today's gathering is simple but important. Political competition must never come at the expense of peace. Democracy is built on differences. Parties will disagree. Candidates will compete. Citizens will make different choices. What matters is that these differences are expressed through ideas, policies, and peaceful political debate. This is why the commitment to issue-based campaigns is so timely. Nigerians are asking important questions about security, livelihoods, education, governance, inclusion, and the future of their country. These issues deserve to be at the center of political debate as Nigeria approaches 2027. For Switzerland, supporting democracy means supporting the conditions that allow it to thrive. Credible and accountable institutions, meaningful citizen participation, inclusive political dialogue, and peaceful ways of managing differences. It has been this broader commitment that we situate our long-standing partnership with the National Peace Committee. Since 2015, Switzerland, through its partnership with the KUKA Center, has supported the National Peace Committee in its efforts to promote peaceful elections, dialogue, and democratic governance. Over the years, the committee has established itself as an important platform for bringing political actors together, facilitating dialogue, and helping to manage tensions at critical moments in Nigeria's democratic process. Our current cooperation with the KUKA Center through the Strengthening for National Peace Committee stakeholder engagements for peace and good governance in Nigeria builds on this long-standing partnership, seeking to strengthen engagement with electoral institutions, political actors, and local peace structures, while improving accountability and early warning ahead of the 2027 elections. The experience from the 2026 off-cycle elections in Ekiti and Osun states is already providing useful lessons. In both states, our work with the National Peace Committee has focused on strengthening accountability, early warning, and the capacity to identify and respond to electoral risk. The two concluded off-cycle elections now provide another important body of experience. While we should allow the relevant institutions and observers to complete their assessments, the experiences of both Ekiti and Osun will provide valuable insights into what worked, where gaps remain, and how early warning, institutional coordination, and compliance with the Peace Accord can be further strengthened ahead of 2027. These experiences also remind us that peaceful elections are about more than the absence of violence. Electoral integrity, public confidence, responsible political conduct, and respect for the free choice of citizens are equally important. For Switzerland and our partners, the task now is to learn from these experiences and ensure that the lessons from Ekiti and Osun inform our engagement towards the 2027 general elections. Signing the accord is a commitment. Honoring it is a leadership. Switzerland remains committed to supporting Nigeria's efforts towards peaceful, inclusive, and credible democratic processes. We value our long-standing partnership with the government and good people of Nigeria, the National Peace Committee, as well as our cooperation with the European Union and other partners. I congratulate the National Peace Committee and all those contributing to this important effort. May today's accord strengthen the collective commitment to a peaceful, credible, and issue-based electoral process towards 2027. Thank you.
There's once again a warm applause to Mr. Siamak
to incite violence and undermine the integrity of the electoral process. 3. To ensure that I, my campaign team, officials and supporters protect women, youth, and persons with disabilities from assault, intimidation, harassment, violence, discrimination, and other forms of abuse, and take reasonable measures to promote their safe, equal, and meaningful participation throughout the campaign period and beyond. 4. To ensure that my campaign cooperates fully with all institutions constitutionally and legally responsible for the conduct, administration, and security of elections, particularly the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and the security agencies. 5. To deploy during all my campaign engagements a political communication strategy that is peaceful, inclusive, respectful, culturally sensitive, educative, and centered on issues, and to refrain from personal attacks, character assassination, inflammatory rhetoric, hate speech, incitement, or other forms of communication capable of promoting discrimination, hostility, violence, or undermining peaceful political competition. 6. To cooperate with the National Peace Committee in its mission to monitor adherence to this accord and facilitate mediation where compliance failures occur. 7. To respect and uphold the Constitution and laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Electoral Act 2026, applicable INEC regulations and guidelines, and Nigeria's relevant regional and international obligations relating to democratic governance, human rights, and electoral integrity, and to refrain from any act the peaceful.
Gentlemen, this is the order which will conduct the peace accord signing. We will begin with the National Assembly and governorship candidates who are here present. I would like to ask for the National Assembly candidates and governorship candidates in the audience to please rise to their feet. Or the National Assembly candidates. Only the National Assembly candidates and governorship candidates, please rise and stay there. Thank you. The pledge will be handed over to you by the ushers. So please, we only need the National Assembly candidates and the governorship candidates to be upstanding. You will get a pledge, it will be handed over to you, and we will read those words and you will append your signature. So we'll just give a few seconds for you to receive the pledge, wherein you would append your signature, your name, the position you're vying for, and your political party.
Governorship candidates and members of the National Assembly, both the Senate and also the House of Representatives. Please, we'll all do that together. Thank you.
So please, if you do not have the pledge yet, kindly indicate and signify by raising your hand so the ushers can hand you your pledge sheet. If you are a National Assembly candidate or a governorship candidate and you do not have the pledge form, kindly raise your hand. So we have someone here in front, the ushers. Kindly attend to him. Thank you very much. We also have someone at the back wearing the wine outfit. Please let's attend to him as well. Let's ensure that no one is disenfranchised here today. Once again, if you are a candidate vying for the House of Representatives or the Senate, or a candidate vying for a governorship seat in one of the states in Nigeria, please rise to your feet. You'll receive a pledge, and together we will do this all important and solemn accord signing. Thank you.
So while you're doing that in the next 2-3 minutes, we'll all take the pledge together. The next 3 minutes. And shortly after that, we'll proceed for the signing of the peace accord for presidential candidates and the chairman of political parties.
So we shall begin. And I need you to say along with me, I, then put your name. Contesting under the platform of the underlisted political party, contesting for the position of pledge on behalf of myself or my campaign. You have made that commitment. Thank you very much. Please a warm applause to all the candidates for the National Assembly and the governorship seats. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, members of staff, please kindly collect the copies, the signed copies, the pledges. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've been waiting for. We're done with the first part, and we're going to the second. The first for the governorship candidates and the National Assembly, the Senate, and members of the House of Representatives. And now, national chairman and presidential candidates. And to drive this process, please let us put hands together for the convener of the National Peace Committee, Most Reverend Dr. Matthew Hassan Kuka. Please a round of applause. Let's put hands together for him. Thank you very much.
Right. So we'll allow the candidates for the national senate seats and governorship seats to take their seats as we call the presidential candidates and the national chairman forward. This will be done in alphabetical order. Thank you.
Chairman and candidates. No candidates, just chairman. Okay, so we'll just call you and then you come up with this so that we take it or make it snappy. So Accord Party, Action Alliance, Action Democratic Party,
So please, the national chairman and the presidential candidate should come forward. So once again, Accord, Action Alliance, the national chairman and the presidential candidate, followed by the presidential candidate of Action Democratic Party, ADP, and the national chairman. Next, the national chairman of Action People's Party, APP, and the presidential candidate should please come forward, followed by the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC, and the national chairman. This should be followed by the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, and the national chairman of the ADC kindly step forward to sign the documents, followed by the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and the national chairman. We also invite the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance Party to step the presidential candidate of the Nigeria Democratic Congress, NDC, and the national chairman. We'd also like to invite the presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, and of the national chairman, as well as a presidential candidate of the People's Redemption Party, PRP, and the national chairman as well. Kindly step forward to sign this document.
And also to add, please, after signing, remain where you are, just still on the stage. After signing, just remain standing on the stage. Thank you so much. Chairman and candidates.
Next on the lineup is the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the national chairman. Please step forward. And don't forget, right after the signing, we appeal to you that you stay on the podium. So for the presidential candidate and the national chairman, kindly stay. Do not leave after you sign. Stay on the podium just in front of your document. So if there's any presidential candidate or national chairman that has left the podium, we ask that you please return to the podium. Next is the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, and the national chairman. Kindly step forward to sign your documents, followed by the presidential candidate of the Youth Party, YP, and the national chairman. It's also my pleasure to invite to the podium the presidential candidate of the Young Progressives Party, YPP, and the national chairman. Please step forward. And last but not least is the presidential candidate of Zenith Labour Party, ZLP, and the national chairman. Please step forward to sign the document. And please do not leave the podium. When you're done with the signing, kindly wait in front of your document. Thank you. This is a moment we have all been waiting for. The moment when every party and candidate says in effect that we may agree on how Nigeria should be run, we may agree on how we should move forward, but we agree that this nation, this great nation, must move forward in peace and harmony.
Gentlemen, the moment we've been waiting for, it's happened already. Please, a round of applause for the candidates and chairman of political parties. Please, let's And together we watch them as they embrace themselves and shake the smile to smile the peace. Peace begins with a smile, like someone say, please let's begin to reach out, a handshake, and together we can say one Nigeria.
Oh yes. So what we're saying is Accord should shake hands with Action Alliance.
Exactly.
Action Democratic Party should embrace the Action People's Party.
Together.
The ANC should give a very warm handshake
and a smile.
The APC. Of course, we can see the ANC and the APC already shaking hands.
Yes.
We look forward to APGA embracing the APN with a warm handshake as well. Please, good party, look for the Democratic Leadership Alliance DLA and shake hands with them. Oh yes. So please let us ensure that we shake hands, embrace each other, and say we are gentlemen, gentlewomen, and we'll make sure that this election is the most peaceful that this great nation has witnessed. So please, all the candidates and party chairmen must shake hands with each other before we leave this venue today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And this is a reflection and representation of the fact that peace itself is something that we all live for, and no society would make progress without ensuring that peace itself is projected. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nigerians. And this is the moment we've been waiting for. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Congratulations. This is a representation of one Nigeria. Kayode, what do you think?
Absolutely. So please, absolutely shake hands. I'm seeing the candidates and chairman ZLP, YPP, YP, SDP shaking hands. This is what we want to see. And I love that the press is here to capture the pictures and the videos.
Sure.
So we can also show Nigerians that see the political actors smiling,
Sure.
shaking hands, embracing themselves.
Together.
So you, the supporters, do not have any reason to engage in violence. Because your leaders are friends.
Sure.
They're shaking hands. They're smiling with each other. Thank you very much to our political actors.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And so we have just two more items before the event comes to an end. Kayode, I think the next should be. So what the others will be taken to the group times. And the group of times will be taken by Bishop Harvey Abuja.
So please come on. So please, let's make a way for the candidates and the chairman to step down from the podium. Thank you very much. Protocol, we ask that you please help coordinate the movement so it is seamless. Thank you very much.
Please, can we give way? Thank you so much. While we wait for the vote of thanks, and then the remarks by the President before the closing the national anthem. Please, a round of applause as we invite our Bishop of London. Congratulations, please, can we have a please take your seats. Thank you so much. You could see the ambience. You could feel peace in the air. You could see for yourself the importance of peace. to be in this country. And that's what really they want to happen in Nigeria. Business artists, as we are the vote of this.
So, presidential candidates, the national chairman, all the candidates in the president, we ask you to please take your seats so we can attend to the next item on our agenda. A very important one. So please, let's be seated so we can round up today's event. So to all our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We ask that you please be seated so we can move on with today's event. We'll be listening in a moment to the convener of the National Peace Committee, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka. He has a very important message for us, so please we ask that we take our seats. We take our seats. We appreciate the camaraderie being displayed here today.
So much excitement here.
Absolutely, but please let's be seated. So we'll do a simple countdown from 10. And we ask that you be seated by the time we get to 1. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Please let's take our seats. 5, 4. Once again, our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's be seated. And to the cameramen, the photographers, and my colleagues in the fourth estate, let's clear the forecourt, please. Let's clear the forecourt so we can have a clear line of sight. 4, 3, 2. If you are still standing, we may see you as an enemy of peace. So if you're still standing right now, we may start to suspect you.
And I believe no one wants to be an enemy of peace.
Exactly. So please let's take our seats so we can continue with today's event, the National Peace Accord signing. The very first one ahead of the 2027 election. I can see some party members standing up. I know you are for peace. So please let us take your seats. Let's take our seats kindly.
And just to add that there's a second signing.
Yes.
Which will come up later, much more later before the elections.
Absolutely.
So get ready for that as well.
Yes. Thank you very much. So it's now our pleasure to invite for the vote of thanks. This is a man that has dedicated his life not just to national progress, but to national peace as well. So please, with a warm applause, let's welcome the convener of the National Peace Committee, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, for his vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I must be very brief because what I need to say has already been said. It just remains for me to, on behalf of the chairman of the National Peace Committee and the members of the Peace Committee, to thank everybody very warmly. One or two things that I think needs to be said. I don't know whether the Swiss embassy is still here, but they require very special mention because they knew a thing or two about this peace committee even before we Nigerians thought about it. I was invited to a meeting by the Swiss embassy, the Swiss ambassador then, whose name I no longer remember. And he talked, it seemed that they had already come up with an idea of an initiative of this nature. And we had a conversation, but nothing prepared me for what they had diplomatically been reflecting upon. They had a few names they had already suggested, but very little came out of that conversation. Surprisingly, my name was on the list, and the ambassador, I remember, turned to me and said, look, would you be in a position to assemble all these people we have listed here? We left the meeting, and as I said, very little came out of that. But I still remember, and I think I've told the story, under President Jonathan, there was what was called the Inter-Party Secretariat. I think it was chaired by Senator Ben Obi. I don't know whether it was a secretariat, but he was the special advisor to the president on inter-party affairs. A very strategic position at that time, which I think is still very much required, because Ben Obi brought quite a lot of professionalism, pushed the boundaries of dialogue and so on, and insisted that parties needed to be talking together. It was then that the Office for Inter-Party Affairs organized a very big conference that took place here in Abuja. I was invited to that conference. I was unable to, I happened to be in Abuja, but I couldn't make it to the conference. And I didn't know anybody would take notice. But at about 8 p.m. that evening, I received a call from Chiremeka Anyoku. And I thought he was going to scold me because he had chaired the meeting. I thought he was going to scold me for not being at the meeting. I apologized to him. And then he says to me, have you met Kofi Annan? And I said, I haven't met Kofi Annan. No, he said, do you know Kofi Annan? I said, I don't know Kofi Annan, but I know of Kofi Annan by reputation. And he said, well, he's asking after you and would like to meet you. And I said, well, I didn't think that was possible because I hadn't met the man before. He said, look, Kofi Annan is about to leave for the airport, but he's ready to wait if you're anywhere near the Hilton. And I said, well, I could get to the Hilton in 10 minutes. And I remember getting to the Hilton, and Kofi Annan embraced me quite warmly and then said to me, look, I've just come from, you know what happened in Kenya? Because the elections in Kenya had gone badly wrong. I think about 1,000 or so people had lost their lives. It had never happened in Kenya before. And then, of course, as you know, there was a looming cloud around Nigeria based on two things. The first was that it was alleged that the Americans had predicted that Nigeria was going to fall apart. And then, of course, in 2011, tensions were heightened by the idea that the famous expression of the late President Muhammadu Buhari of blessed memory, who, after losing the election, had made the point that the next election it will be blood for the dog and blood for Birijini, Kerejini, and that it was going to be literally a war with no boundaries. That metaphor rang in the ears of so many Nigerians. And so there was quite a lot of understandable anxiety as to what will happen with the 2015 elections. Long story short, Kofi Annan's call was what led to the setting up of the National Peace Committee. Because all the instructions he gave me was to assemble credible Nigerians together to be able to do this. The list, as you know, is pretty long. A good number of the members of the Peace Committee are, for all kinds of reasons, unable to be physically here. Quite a good number of them on grounds of old age. Some are not well. General Abdul Salam is out of the country. He has, I've seen 2 or 3 messages from him, wondering whether all this has ended and ended very well. So he's with us in spirit. But I just want to make the point again that it's not the numbers. The Peace Committee has continued to do extraordinarily good work. That much I can say. We were not set up, you know, to monitor elections and make sure that elections are. We were set up to encourage Nigerians. And I want to just use 2 examples, if you indulge me. Many of us are convinced, and I've had people say to me, are we really doing anything? Do people just sign a card and go home? The governor of Ekiti, I happen to have met him, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And as the chairman of INEC would testify, the elections in Ekiti went very, very well and very smooth. But he said to me, when you people came to Ekiti, and we had to sign, and I had to sign that peace committee, we the members who were in Ekiti remembered that even right up to the eve of the signing of the peace accord, there had been a lot of bloodshed. But he said, when I put my signature to that, I decided to take it seriously. So seriously that when we went back to Ekiti before the elections, Asabe, who made the beautiful presentation, they had made a similar presentation and indicated that the staff of the Kuka Center that had been in Ekiti for almost 5 weeks had found only 2 two incidents of violence. And he said, what I have done, and I think this is what I encourage our politicians to do, because violence is directly related to the unresolved issues among political competitors. He said to me, I had gone out of my way to make peace with all the political enemies of my predecessor because he had also encouraged me to do so. To the point that at the last elections in Ekiti, literally every politician was literally behind the governor. So I make this point because a lot of poor people continue to die for issues that politicians have not been able to resolve. The second point is what has happened in Oshun. And I want to congratulate the governor. But also, I think we can learn a lesson from the way that Governor Adeleke conducted himself. Let me put it that way. I've known him for quite some time. I got his number. I called him not once, not twice. He never answered my phone. I didn't return my phone. But after we signed the peace accord in Oshun, from then till Friday, there was hardly any day the governor was not on the phone to me, reporting the incidents of violence. And the good news here, and I want you to take this news to the Inspector General of Police. We had a triangular conversation. Governor Adeleke will call to report this incident, and I will call the Inspector General of Police, who was kind enough to constantly answer my phone. He said, look, they have arrested my secretary to government. I called IG. The next day, the secretary to government was released. He said, they have arrested 87 people from Ekiti. They brought them to Abuja. I called the Inspector of Police. He responded. As he kept making these accusations, I kept passing the information to the Inspector General of Police. These triangular conversations largely led to the encouragement, because I also kept encouraging the governor, continue, complain, and continue. And I think it is to be, the lesson we learn here is that the crying for help is important. But also, we need the institutions of state to be able to respond to those cries. So I really just want to congratulate the people of Ekiti, and also want to congratulate the Inspector General of Police. But over and above that, many of us have found it very comfortable to criticize institutions of government, and they deserve criticism. But this is our country. We are not going anywhere. It is for us to build. All the members of the Peace Committee, none of them has received a single penny, nor has has anybody asked for a single penny. This work is being done for free. You saw General Abdusalam come into this hall and other places with a walking stick. So I just want to thank the members of the Peace Committee. And as you know, we were supposed to have gone home after the 2015 elections. But when we came back, when we met with President Jonathan, I met with President Buhari, I met with the Senate President, I met with the Speaker, I met with the different political parties and the media. Everybody said, no, the Peace Committee cannot go anywhere. But the lesson we learned here is that the president, I remember President Buhari was so excited that he said the Peace Committee must not go anywhere. And he turned to Babachir, who was the secretary to government. He said, please find them an office immediately. Get the Peace Committee a permanent office. But when we went back and had conversation, we decided we will not take an office from government. And I think why the Peace Committee has remained, even if it is one person or two people, why we have remained credible is because we are not being funded by the government. And this is why I would like to thank the European Union, because they have stepped in and they have been responsible, and they have followed us every step of the way. So everything we have achieved today would probably not have been possible without the support of the European Union. Your Excellency, I want to please beg you to convey our appreciation and gratitude, and that we really appreciate this encouragement. Lastly, I want to thank my staff at the Kuka Center. And I wish they were all here, because if they were here, I'll ask all of them to come out. They've done extraordinarily good work under the leadership of Father Atta Barkindo. And with them, you can go to sleep. The average age of the staff of the Kuka Center is 25 or 27. They're doing exceptionally good work. And I'm confident that the lessons they are learning here will make them not only better citizens, but better politicians. So finally, I commit myself, and I think we all must commit ourselves to certain principles. that Nigeria has a date with destiny, and that despite the violence, despite the kidnapping, despite the setback, Nigeria's greatness will still be achieved in our lifetime. The Nigerian politicians believe, there are many of them who believe, as one of our singers has said, they believe that they will be rich till they die. But we ordinary people must wear face masks, no matter the matter. We also are entitled to a good life. So, once again, Mr. President, ably represented by the the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Senate President, Speaker, members of the National Assembly, governors, and everybody who is here, I want on behalf of all of us to say how very grateful we are. The media, we thank you for the great work you continue to do. And we ask Almighty God to bless you. So for all of us who have been here, I'm sure you have enjoyed the ambience of this hall. When a friend of mine came from Nigeria to visit me, I was a student in London. We entered the underground train and we bought what they call the all-day pass. That was, we could go to anywhere we wanted. On our way back home, my friend said, this train is not enough. These £2 we paid. And he said, okay, he wanted to keep going around London. He didn't know where he was going. He just kept going around the train because he said he must follow this train until sunset. Then he would have made his money. So I believe that given how much we paid to enter this hall, it has been worthwhile. And I'm sure you have stayed here and enjoyed the air condition. By the time you go back home, there may be no NEPA. But we would like to thank all those who made this place possible. Our daughter, Miss Komolafe, came back from London yesterday. And it is a miracle that she and her team were able to put together what we have here today. Because, yes, as at yesterday, you wouldn't have recognized this hall. So I really want to personally thank her and thank the European Union for linking her up with us. Once again, I thank you and I ask Almighty God to bless all of us. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Another round of applause for His Lordship. Thank you so much, my Lord Bishop. Thank you to the National Peace Committee for the sacrifice that we continue to make. And I thought we are supposed to clap for my colleague. My colleagues, when the Bishop, please let's put our hands together for the Cooker Center, the staff of the Cooker Center. Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the time is now for us to say thank you for coming. And for the remarks taken from the office, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, we're talking about the remarks by the President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please, let's make welcome Senator George Akume, CON, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. A round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I stand proxy for His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For exigency of office is not here with us. Permit me to read his statement to you this evening. His Excellency Abdulsalami Abubakar, GCFR, former head of state, chairman NPC, ably represented by General Agwai, former chief of defense staff. The President of the Senate, ably represented by the Deputy President of the Senate, His Excellency Senator Barrow, the Speaker, Dr. Tajuddin Abbas, ably represented
The Inspector General of Police, ably represented by the DIG Operations. The convener, His Lordship Bishop Hassan Kuka. The Chairman, INEC, Professor Amupiton, SAN. Chairman of political parties here present, presidential candidates, members of the diplomatic corps, party orders, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to be here today to take part in this significant event, which precedes the start of the political campaign ahead of the January and February 2027 general elections. I thank members of the National Peace Committee, NPC, especially the former head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, the Sultan of Sokoto, and Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka for convening this important occasion. Our nation owes the NPC a debt of gratitude for your steadfastness since 2014 in promoting peace accords that commit political parties and candidates to run non-violent, issue-based campaigns during national and off-cycle state elections. Since 1999, when our country returned to democratic governance, under the stewardship of General Abdulsalami Abubakar and his team, every election period has brought a share of anxiety because of the nature of our politics and the intense competition for power by political actors. While politics and the contest for power can be loud and often create tension and disagreement among politicians, we must acknowledge the progress we have made in our electoral process in terms of transparency and election management by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. With the aid of technology, INEC has recorded remarkable improvement in every election cycle. The introduction of the permanent voters card and BVS, an electronic card reader, has eliminated voting manipulation, ballot stuffing, and snatching at polling units. These improvements have restored power to the voters who are not sure that their vote will count. Politicians are now more accountable to the people because votes count. These polls have also demonstrated our capacity as a people to conduct ourselves with maturity and restraint. Between October 2025 and August 15, 2026, we witnessed three off-season polls in Anambra, Ekiti, and Osun states. Different parties won them, and local and foreign observers described them as free, credible, and transparent. When the process and outcome are manifestly transparent, we see less post-election litigation in our courts. We have gathered today to commit ourselves to a peaceful and transparent electoral process. Signing this peace accord is a solemn pledge to the Nigerian people that we, as leaders, will put the nation's interests above personal or partisan ambitions. I call on all Nigerians, civil society organizations, our foreign partners, and the media to join us in deepening and building a stronger, more vibrant democratic society. Democracy is not just about periodic elections that get politicians into government positions. Democracy is about how citizens participate in the affairs of their nation, build trust in public institutions, engage civically, and work together for good governance and a more just and equitable society. In the spirit of the accord we have just signed, we must conduct ourselves in ways that strengthen, not tear, the fabric of our society. It is natural during campaigns to disagree as opponents and advocate competing governing visions for our country. We may exchange occasional political jabs, but as members of the same household, the same national family, we must never resort to divisive or primordial sentiments of ethnicity or religion as tools for seeking power. Let us campaign on superior ideas. Let us debate issues and promote the best policies to expand opportunities for our people and accelerate Nigeria's journey from a developing nation to a first world country. As the campaign season kicks off, I commit myself and my party, the All Progressives Congress, to the tenets of this accord. Our party rejects violence, hate speech, the spread of misinformation, including through artificial intelligence and all forms of incitement, especially via social media. We are committed to peaceful, transparent elections that will strengthen political stability, social harmony, economic progress, and our nation's prosperity. I encourage other political parties and political actors to do the same. Let us remember that elections are not a do or die affair. We are partners in the project of nation building. Win or lose, our country, Nigeria, must be the ultimate winner. God bless you all, and may God continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you all.
One more time, a warm applause to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, representing the President. Shall we please rise for the national anthem? At the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. With tribes of Medieval, in brotherhood we stand. Nigeria's own and proud to serve a sovereign motherland.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the first signing of the National Peace Accord. By all political parties and the candidates contesting the 2027 GEP.
Thank you very much. Well, there we have it. We have been watching the first signing of the National Peace Accord to commit political parties and candidates to issues-based campaign ahead of the 2027 general elections. We've seen the activities there today, speeches, kind speeches from those who are monitoring, and of course the candidates as well as the political parties represented there. But let's be taking some reflections from people who attended this event on what they expect going forward as we head towards the polls. Welcome back to our studios. We have right in our studios Dr. Otibe Iguzo, who is the founding executive director, African Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We also have Mr. Jide Ojo, who is a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the program as well.
Nice meeting you, my friend.
Well, it has been quite a day. Studio has been open since about 1:30 p.m. today. And this is what we're not witnessing, the conclusion of the first phase of this signing of the National Peace Accord, how convinced are you by the showing of the political parties that indeed we will have campaigns that are devoid of violence, campaigns that are devoid of hate speech, and campaigns that actually promote peace as we head to the general elections?
Well, I think that is an important first step. You recall that this is not the first time. It has been signed in the past, and some people abide by it, some do not abide by it. So the reality is that we are hoping that they will abide by it, but we must go beyond hope. This signing is a moral suasion. If you look at throughout the discussion, it's an appeal to the political parties, to the candidates, to ensure that it's issue-based campaigns. There is no insult, no abuse, and no resort to violence. But an important thing is that it is grounded on the laws, and the laws have penalties. So, for it to be really effective, is to go beyond this appeal to ensure that first, if there is any infraction in those laws is committed, then those people should be held to book. That will serve as a deterrent to others that want to engage in it. And secondly, for all stakeholders in the election process to perform their roles, INEC to be impartial and transparent in the hiring of ad hoc staff in the entire electoral process, for the security agencies to be professional and to be impartial, for media not to aid and abet those who make hate speech and misinformation, and then for the citizens to be vigilant. If you look at what happened in Osun, for instance, and you look at what happened in Ghana elections, citizens, it has passed the time when citizens just vote and go away. They have to ensure they protect their vote. And political parties must organize themselves, organize their agents, and ensure that the entire process is seamless.
I was going to ask Mr. Ojo, do you think that we're being overly optimistic with some of the demands that we're asking or we're making of political parties and their candidates? We know that some of the things that make elections interesting are some of the banter. Some of them categorize them as banter. But it's a very thin line between banter and cyberbullying. It's a very thin line between banter and, hate speech, so to speak. Things that will be considered hate speech in some other instances. Do you think that we're asking too much of political parties with the demands that have been made of them today?
No, not at all, Mokwe. The demands are actually not overwhelming, but not so devastating we know here. We just rounded up with Osun election. Did you know that there were 2 peace accords that were signed in Osun?
Indeed.
One by Osun Development Association, I think, before the National Peace Committee zone on June 31st or July 31st. But look at the fatalities that were still recorded, 30 plus lives murdered. And somebody is saying, oh, I was quoted out of context when he said something to the effect that his supporters should harm other party members. And the police treated it with levity. Because there was no thorough investigation, there was no arrest. The person was just invited, spoke with the police and walked away. And the person still had the audacity to commit another infraction on the day of election. So this culture of impunity is what needs to be broken. With this
with this peace accord, I see it as a carrot and stick. As Otivia has said, this is more of moral suasion. So persuade them, don't engage in issue-based campaign, don't engage in hate speech, don't engage in misinformation and disinformation. There are consequences for all of this. But I'm glad INEC and the security agencies were witnesses at this event. More importantly, the security agencies have the primary role to enforce public order. So when the political parties and their politicians or politically exposed persons are committing their infractions, it is expected that they move swiftly to contain them, not to be party blind, in the sense that if the person belongs to the ruling party, it's okay, it's just a banter, it's just mere rhetorics. But if it's opposition, you move swiftly and deal with it with force of law. That is double standard. That is why they said the law is for the enemy, exception is for the friends. But if we want to restore peace and order in our campaigns, we have to apply the law evenly across board, whether big or small party, whether feasible or infeasible candidate, anywhere infraction is committed, having penned their signatures on this peace accord, it is enforceable, and that's the takeaway for me. Many people outside felt, oh, it's just a moral suasion, it doesn't have the force of law, it's not rooted in law. We know from the documents, there are several sections of the Electoral Act, of the Constitution, of the guidelines that condemn, violent campaigns. So to the extent that there is a force of law, that is where we now need the security agencies working in cahoots with INEC to enforce.
I was going to ask Mr. Iguza, how powerful is a signature? Because he just made reference to that. How powerful is a signature? And can you be held liable? Can any one of the candidates be held liable? Because I heard them pledging that they will be held responsible for whatever
they can be held liable
do. Yes.
if we activate the enforcement mechanisms by the police, because the signing the accord signals something, that we need peace for the country, because we know that across the world, crisis that comes after election comes only when the citizens and the contestants believe that the declared result is different from the true wishes and aspirations of people as expressed in their vote. So the operationalization of this peace accord will only happen if the election is credible, free and fair, and believable. And for it to be believable, the process has to be transparent. The people will have to see it, that the process itself is transparent. So it's an important signaling, and they can be held accountable to what they have signed because it's based on the law. As Jide has said, there are relevant sections of the Constitution and the Electoral Act that backs this signature. And so to activate the operationalization is to enforce the law. So if they breach it, the law can take its course, then they can be held accountable.
You both made reference to the process and the process of the elections itself. Even though this signing is supposed to precede election day, there will be another signing closer to the elections itself. But we all know that to uphold peace generally within the elections, the process is sacrosanct. INEC chairman was here, Professor Joash Amupiton, and he underscored saying that INEC does not have any candidates in this election. How crucial do you think that it will be that even when parties feel like they have been disenfranchised, when a few cheated, how would you expect them to respond? How would you expect them to address their supporters and their followers?
Mokwa is very simple. See, in the lead up to Osun, something again happened. A party was left out of the ballot paper. They went to court. The court compelled INEC to enlist the party. And that is to a very huge financial cost to the federal government because they have to go and reprint all the ballot paper and the result sheets. Now, why am I emphasizing that? The political parties, and this is about campaign, we should not lose sight of that, issue-based campaign. This is going to run for 150 days, from tomorrow through to the 14th of January. And so we need to be mindful of the fact that if you see your opponent taking undue advantage, or that someone has breached the campaign rules, rather than resorting to self-help, report to the authority. If they fail to take action, go to court. When people have just trivialized the issue of going to court, but I see no alternative to going to court. Perhaps with the exception of alternative dispute resolution, ADR, where you can, and INEC has that ADR division within its system, which it offers, I think, free of charge, that they can arbitrate intra-party and inter-party crisis. But most importantly is that there are different mechanisms to seek redress. It's not necessarily when you resort to self-help or to hate speech or to propaganda or fake news, which can be harmful to the entire society beyond the political class. The country does not belong to the only political class. They cannot hold us by the jugular for the next 150 days and treated us to half truth or fake news or hate speech or misinformation or disinformation. And that is why even as ordinary citizens, we also preserve the right to engage in public interest litigation, where we see a political party or candidate having contravened the provisions of this peace accord and by extension provisions of electoral act and the constitution. There are CSOs that engage in public interest litigation who has the locus to go to court and say the authorities need to enforce this person is on record to have breached the provisions of not only the peace accord but our extant electoral laws.
Well, gentlemen, the countdown begins. 150 days before the general elections, 150 days of campaigns, and we'll see just how well the political parties live up to the promises that they have made and signed up to here in this hall, the Bola Tinubu International Conference Center here in Abuja. I've been speaking with Mr. Jide Ojo, who is a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much
And a
for
development
speaking with us.
consultant.
And a development consultant. I should add that as
Thank
well.
you.
And Dr. Otibe Ibuzo, who is the founding executive director, African Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development Center, LSD. Thank you so much for coming on the program as well. Well, that's where we wrap up on this first signing of the National Peace Accord. The ball is now in your court to hold the actors accountable. Where you see something, say something. Call them out on your social media. And if it's their supporters or your friends who are supporting people and who are saying things that they ought not to say, I think we all have a duty in this regard. But we have to thank you so much for staying with us throughout the duration of this period, the first signing of the National Peace Accord to commit political parties and candidates to issues-based campaigns ahead of the 2027 general elections. It's been a pleasure serving you here from the studios. Thank you for watching. I'm Malfa Yusuf. It's good night.
Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's not time for us to look at what the papers are reporting. First, we have a peek through with the Nation newspaper, banner headline: APC, NDC, ADC, others get INEX not for campaigns. Tinubu, Obi, Atiku free to canvass for votes. Parties not ready for marathon stomp. Next is the Blueprint newspaper. Defense Minister speaks on security integrity of 2027 polls as Blueprint unveils award recipients. The Punch newspaper says, insecurity, 31 states spend 252 billion naira on security in 6 months. And the Platform Times, Osun election, INEC rejects ghost voters' claims as Adeleke camp opens violence register. Nigerian Tribune, Osun Guba, UK raises concern over vote buying. NBA warns of Beavers challenges ahead of 2027. And the Daily Trust, food prices rise as inflation slows. The Guardian newspaper says concerns as cost of living pressure lingers despite easing inflation. And Observer Time says save Abuja from flood crisis. FCT minister tasked to stop regularizing buildings in floodplain areas. The Hope newspaper says Aiyedatiwa raises tertiary institution subventions by 60%. This Nigeria, EU releases 2.3 million euros as cholera cases surge. New Telegraph, xenophobia, South Africa anti-immigration group issues fresh September the 30th deadline. And the Leadership newspaper above the masthead says Middle Belt Forum rejects ranching in Benue, Kaduna, Plateau, others. And last but not least is the Sport Alive 9 million euros, 9 million pounds Coventry contract. Awoniyi ready for new challenges. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks by doing this with Olamide, Ria, and our in-house analyst Biodun Shomi. First, let's start off with the Nation newspaper, which says the APC, NDC, ADC, others get INEX not for campaigns. Tinubu, Obi, Atiku free to canvass for votes. Parties not ready for marathon stomp. So, like tomorrow, the green light has been given to all the parties, and we see that they have about 5 months to go about their campaign.